certain references like Arjuna is asking questions about what Lord Krishna mentioned in the last two verses of seventh chapter.
Yeah.
Some of the questions were related to what is Adi Devik, what is Adi Bhautik, what is Adhyatma, then how one can remember Lord Krishna at the end of his life, at the time of death.
Okay. Anyone else? How many total questions were asked? Yes, Hari Chaitanya Prabhu, you tell how many questions were asked. Hari Chaitanya Prabhu, Kalash, Mataji, Goloka, Gita,
Mataji,
Jai Shri.
5 questions in 29th verse and 2 in 30th.
Total 7 questions.
Total 7 questions, yes.
Okay. Let us see total how many questions were asked.
8th chapter, first verse, 5 questions.
Okay. And the second was? Second verse, how many questions? Haribol?
3.
Huh?
Mataji, 2 questions.
No.
3.
3
No,
to
no.
20.
Let us see how many.
Mataji, 3 questions.
3 questions. Okay. So this chapter is known as Akshara Brahma Yoga. Akshara Brahma Yoga. Now what we saw? What was the 7th chapter? Jnana Vijnana Yoga. So practical application, seeing Lord in everything. Now Akshara Brahma Yoga, let us see. Arjuna Vacha. Kim means what? Kim Tat Brahma. First question. Kim Adhyatmam. Second. Kim Karma Purushottama. What is a karma? Kim Adibhutam Chakim. Adibhutam Chakim. Now, Kim has been put here. This is actually the beauty of Sanskrit. You can put anywhere anything. You can put Kim here, but English cannot do that. Brahman what? If you ask like this, they'll think you're coming from a village. Brahman what? No, but here you can do Adibhutam Kim. Kim Adibhutam. That is why study Sanskrit is better. You can put anywhere anything. Okay. So this is 4th question. Adibhutam. Kim Adibhutam. Proktam. Kim Kim Adidaivam. The 5th question now. So what is Brahman? What is Adhyatma? What is Karma? What is Adibhuta? What is Adi Daiva? Then Adhiyagyaha Katham Kotraha. Katham Kotraha. What is Adhiyagyaha? Dehesmin Madhusudana. So who is Adhiyagya? How is he known in the body? You can make it into 2 questions. Or you can think it of as 1 question also. Now here lies 2 questions also you can make it. How is he known in this body? Adhiyagya, how is he known in the body? So 2 questions come. Then Prayana Kale cha Katham. Katham also is like Kim only. Kim Katham, same meaning. Prayana Kale cha Katham. Dhyeyosi Niyatatmibihi. Niyatatmabihi. So Prayana Kale picha. Oh Lord, how are you known at the point of death? By whom? Niyatatmabihi. Who have concentrated mind. Those who have concentrated mind, how they know you at the point of death? That means it is not so easy to know him at the point of death. Only when a person is niyataha atmibihi, a regular practitioner of remembering Krishna when the body is healthy. Like Kulashekar Alvar says, Prana Prayana Samayi Kapavata Pittai. Kantavarodhana Vadu Smaranam Kutaste. How am I going to remember at the point of death? That is why Krishna Tadiya Pada Pankaja Panjarantam Adyeva Me Vishatumanasa Rajamsa. When my body is healthy, just remember. There is no other work actually. This is the only work. Remembering Lord is the only work. To facilitate that work, we go to office. Don't say I have office work. That office work is just to facilitate a roof under which we can chant his name. That is why management of time is very important. How you manage your time in such a way that you never forget Krishna and always remember Krishna. So 8th chapter starts with how many questions? 8 questions. And what was the previous one? If you see 2 verses, same thing was asked. Let us see. 29th and 30th verse, there also Jara Marana Mokshaya Mamashitya Yatanti Yete Brahma Tadvidhu Krishnam Adhyatma Karma Khilam. So Brahman is asked. So and then Adhyatma is asked, Karma is asked, then Adi Bhutam, Adi Deivam, 5 became Adi Yakyam, 6 became, then Prayana Kale Pichate, 7 Vidurita Chetasaha. That is why that Adi Yakya here it is divided into 2. 7, that 7th one is divided into 2 parts. How is he known in the body? Adi Yakya. Okay. Goloka read.
Yes, Mataji. Mataji, first shloka of 8th chapter, right?
First and 2.
First and
First
second.
to do, and second one is divided into 2 parts. Yeah. So first you do first.
Okay.
First.
Arjuna
Then
Uvacha.
Aditya, you do the second one.
Arjuna Uvacha. Kim tat brahma kim adhyatmam kim karma purushottama adibhutam cha kim proktam adidaivam kim uchyate. Arjuna inquired, O my Lord, O Supreme Person, what is Brahman? What is the self? What are fruitive activities? What is this material manifestation? And what are the demigods? Please explain this to me. Purport. In this chapter, Lord Krishna answers different questions from Arjuna, beginning with what is Brahman. The Lord also explains karma, fruitive activities, devotional service, and yoga principles, and devotional service in its pure form. The Srimad Bhagavatam explains that the supreme absolute truth is known as Brahman, Paramatma, and Bhagavan. In addition, the living entity, the individual soul, is also called Brahman. Arjun also inquires about Atma, which refers to body, soul, and mind. According to the Vedic dictionary, Atma refers to the mind, soul, body, and senses also. Arjuna has addressed the Supreme Lord as Purushottama, Supreme Person, which means that he is putting these questions not simply to a friend, but to Supreme Person, knowing him to be the supreme authority, able to give definite answers.
Next verse, Aditya.
Hare Krishna. Adi yajna katham putra dehesmin madhusudana prayana kale cha katham neyosi niyatatmapihi.
Chennai?
नहीं नहीं विशाखापट्टनम.
Meaning here.
Translation: Who is the Lord of sacrifice and how does he live in the body, O Madhusudana? And how can those engaged in devotional service know you at the time of death? Perfect. Lord of sacrifice may refer to either Indra or Vishnu. Vishnu is the chief of the primal demigods, including Brahma and Shiva, and Indra is the chief of the administrative demigods. Both Indra and Vishnu are worshipped by yajna performances. But here Arjuna asks who is actually the Lord of yajna, sacrifice, and how the Lord is residing within the body of the living entity. Arjuna addresses the Lord as Madhusudana
Saurabh Singh,
because
Visakhapatnam. Thank you.
Arjuna addresses the Lord as Madhusudana because Krishna once killed a demon named Madhu. Actually, these questions, which are of the nature of doubts, should not have arisen in the mind of Arjuna because Arjuna is a Krishna conscious devotee. Therefore, these doubts are like demons. Since Krishna is so expert in killing demons, Arjuna here addresses him as Madhusudana so that Krishna might kill the demonic doubts that arise in Arjuna's mind. Now, the word Prayanakale in this verse is very significant because whatever we do in life will be tested at the time of death. Arjuna is very anxious to know of those who are constantly engaged in Krishna consciousness. What should be their position at that final moment? At the time of death, all the bodily functions are disrupted and the mind is not in a proper condition. Thus, disturbed by the bodily situation, one may not be able to remember the Supreme Lord. Maharaj Kulshekar, a great devotee, prays, "My dear Lord, just now I am quite healthy, and it is better that I die immediately so that the swan of my mind can seek entrance at the stem of your lotus feet." The metaphor is used because the swan, a bird of the water, takes pleasure in digging into the lotus flower. Its sporting proclivity is to enter the lotus flower. Maharaj Kulshekar says to the Lord, "Now my mind is undisturbed and I am quite healthy. If I die immediately, thinking of your lotus feet, then I am sure that my performance of your devotional service will become perfect. But if I have to wait for my natural death, then I do not know what will happen because at that time the bodily functions will be disrupted, my throat will be choked up, and I do not know whether I shall be able to chant your name. Better let me die immediately." Arjuna questions how a person can fix his mind on Krishna's lotus feet at such a time. Hare Krishna.
So this is the most important question actually. The 8th chapter is going to come. How am I going to remember you at the time of death? Let us see now. Answers. Shri Bhagavan Uvacha Aksharam Brahma Paramam Aksharam Brahma Paramam Sabhavo Dhyatma Muchyate Sabhava Dhyatma Muchyate Bhuta Bhavodbhavakaro Visarga Karma Sangitaha. Shri Bhagavan Uvacha Aksharam Brahma Paramam Sabhavo Dhyatma Muchyate Dhyatmam Sabhavo Dhyatmam Uchyate Bhuta Bhavodbhavakaro Visarga Karma Sangitaha. So Lord says, Ada Aksharam Brahma, Aksharam Brahma. Aksharam. What is Brahman is a question. Huh? The answer is what? The Brahman is indestructible Jivatma. That is Brahman. Then Paramam, it is completely transcendental. Then indestructible Jivatma, and this is completely transcendental. Transcendental to what? Transcendental to the 3 modes of material nature, or transcendental to the body. Swabhava Adhyatmam. So what is Adhyatmam? It is the Adhyatma. It is a Swabhava. Swabhava means the impressions, you can say. The impressions which the Divatma is carrying, which accompanies, that is Adhyatmam. Or you can say the eternal nature. But that eternal nature, if forgotten, then what happens? The impressions which they carry. Then Adhyatmam over. Bhuta Bhava Udbhavakaraha. Because of the impressions, different material bodies of the living entities are created. Visarga, creation. Karma, the actions, because of that, what happens? Actions pertaining to the development of the material body. Impressions are carried, then there is an action involved, and that is karma or fruitive activities. So karma means the force which give rise to the bodies through the combination of subtle and gross elements. What is that subtle element? Man, buddhi, ahankara. Gross element is earth, water, fire, air, ether, sense organs, that is the working sense organs, the knowledge gain sense organs, sense objects, they are all gross elements. And subtle are the man, buddhi, ahankar, and pradhana, 3 modes of material nature. So here Krishna is solving 3 questions. What is Brahman? What is Brahman? That indestructible living entity, that is Brahman. Okay? And beyond Brahman is Parabrahman. So here Brahman is not Lord. Here Brahman is a living entity. Then, so what is the constitutional position of the living entity Adhyatma? What is Adhyatma? Real Adhyatma? He is a servant of Lord. But what is the position he takes in this material world? That is the nature which he carries because of the force of karma. Impressions. Because of the impressions, what happens? Various karmas are also involved. Because of the karmas, impressions are there. And because of the impressions, again karmas are there. So Adhyatma. Two meanings for Adhyatma. The eternal nature of the soul, the impressions which it carries. And what is the meaning of karma? The actions involved. And because of which he gets a particular type of body. Okay. Jai Shri Mataji.
Hare Krishna. Sri Bhagavanuvacha Aksharam Brahma Paramam Swabhavotyatmamuchyate Bhuta Bhavodbhavakaro Visarga Karma Samnitaha. Translation. The Supreme Personality of Godhead said, the indestructible, transcendental living deity is called Brahman, and his eternal nature is called Adhyatma, the self. Action pertaining to the development of the material bodies of the living entities is called karma or productive activities. Purport. Brahman is indestructible and eternally existing, and its constitution is not changed at any time. But beyond Brahman, there is a Parabrahman. Brahman refers to the living entity, and Parabrahman refers to the Supreme Personality of Godhead. The constitutional position of the living entity is different from the position he takes in the material world. In material consciousness, his nature is to try to be the Lord of matter, but in spiritual consciousness, Krishna consciousness, his position is to serve the Supreme. When the living entity is in material consciousness, he has to take on various bodies in the material world. That is called karma, or varied creation by the force of material consciousness. In Vedas literature, the living entity is called Jivatma and Brahman, but he is never called Parabrahman. The living entity, Jivatma, takes different position. Sometimes he merges into the dark material nature and identifies himself with matter, and sometimes he identifies himself with the superior spiritual nature. Therefore, he is called the Supreme Lord's magical
Marginal.
marginal energy.
Sometimes he comes to his proper identification. Sometimes he identifies himself with the matter. That is why in between.
According to this identification with material or spiritual nature, he receives a material or spiritual body. In material nature, he may take a body from any of the...
What a choice is given. 84 lakh species. He may take
84 lakh species of life, but in spiritual nature, he has only one body. In material nature, he is manifested sometimes as a man, demigod, animal, beast, bird, etc., according to his karma. To attain material heavenly planets and enjoy the fructivities, and see sometimes perform sacrifices, yajna, but when his merit is exhausted, he returned to the earth again in the form of a man. This process is called karma.
Okay, stop here. So this is called karma. He goes on changing the bodies, performs some pious activities. When he performs pious activities, he gets upper planetary system, Shine Punya Martalokam Vishanti, then has to come back again. And in this is known as karma. This process is called karma. Because of one's action, one gets higher, middle, or lower planetary system. Again performs some karma, again carries the impression. So Adhyatma, Karma is related to Adhyatma. Now, Adhyatma is of two types. One is eternal nature, one is material nature. If he is having the eternal nature, he is always blissful. Now, when a body is born, it undergoes, especially the human body, it undergoes 5 aspects. That is, Anna Kosha. 5 koshas are there for everyone. Anna Kosha, Prana Kosha, Jnana Kosha, Vijnana Kosha, Ananda Kosha. In this Ananda Kosha, he attains a spiritual identity. What is this Anna Kosha? You see small children, they all go on asking food. It is mother's duty to go on giving them. That is why Udupi Krishna also is treated as Namma Krishna, small baby Krishna. Every 1 hour, something or other is given. Now, they will not eat too much, but they like to go on munching something. Every 2 hours, 3 hours. That is how mothers should be at home. If mothers are not at home, they will keep everything in the fresh and they will eat and the child will be hungry. And it is not that you give the child something cold food. Whenever possible, give hot. That is Anna Kosha. That Kosha has to develop. Till 5 years, you have this Anna Kosha. They feel hungry. At every 2 hours, they'll feel hungry. And they like mother cooking and giving. They like to eat some kurkur also. Something like some crispy things. Something soft things. That is the time taste buds develop. You see, after 2 years, 3 years, the taste bud, they now identify what is bitter, what is salty, what is sweet. They identify. 2 years ke baad, this taste buds develop. This is known as Anna Kosha. Then afterwards, from 5 years onwards, 6 years onwards, what happens? Prana Kosha. They have so much of strength. They want to do something. If you don't allow them to do something, they will do some mischief. Then what nowadays mothers do? Because they do so much of mischief, they keep some mobiles. They give them some mobiles. They go on playing so that they can keep quiet and sit in one place. Or they give some TV programs and they just see that. But what is happening? Their prana kosha, that is a time, their energy. Their energy has to be utilized in a nice way. You can teach them so many things. You can make them even broom your house. You can make them clean everything. You can ask them to cut something with a blunt knife. They like to do something. That is known as prana kosha. That is why mothers also should be very active. They like to do something or the other. And that is the time their prana kosha. A lot of prana is there. Don't try to suppress that prana kosha. And then afterwards comes jnana kosha. They go on asking questions. 7 years, 8 years, you see, they'll go on asking. That starts actually. 5 years itself, they'll start. They'll ask some stupid question. Why, where is moon? By the time you give really good answer, then the next question comes. They are not interested in hearing. They are interested in asking many questions. And you may be very scientific in giving the answer. They are not interested in your answer. They want somebody to hear. That is why you see what is the role of mother. It's not as ordinary role. It's the most important, you can say, the most important managerial work. You say you become the manager outside, but your child is suffering. The most important managerial work. She is the general manager, actually. You can say MD of the house, managing director of the house. So what she can do, she has to hear, go on hearing blah, 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 blah. So many questions. And you go on answering something. They are not interested in what answer, but you should open your mouth and answer. For that, you should open your ears also and hear. And then comes slowly, Vijnana Kosha. That is a time at the age of 13, 14, 15, they try to read. And in this way, Vijnana Kosha, they develop a special knowledge. So when you have filled these koshas with proper treatment, we filled it, then they can experience after 18 years Ananda Kosha. And this Ananda Kosha is actually spiritual bliss. That is why it is said, give spirituality right from beginning. And the mothers give spirituality right from beginning, then the child can understand its constitutional position at the time of 17, 18, 19 years. They'll always be in bliss. And you don't have to worry. Even in the college, they are surrounded by all drunkards. That person will always be a pure devotee. But exactly opposite is happening nowadays. Mothers are so busy. When they have to be actually treated very nicely, that time they scream. When they have to be, when they should be actually now like a friends, that time they scold them. When they should be, when they should get scoldings, that is the time they pamper. So exactly opposites are going on. That's why children are not able, the children's koshas are not able to develop. When the child becomes like 15 years, 20 years, it is said, there's a proverb actually. Father's shoes, something comes, son is father's son, something comes, like a proverb is there. Now the son can wear father's shoes. That means father and the son relationship should be like a friend. The father should be very friendly. That's the time if they scold. The son who has to go really high in his even material life also, he cannot do anything. Leave aside spiritual life, he cannot do anything. When scolding should be given, the time pampering was done. All the things were given which was not needed. Because of that, the child develops all wrong habits. When it should not be given, that is given. When it should be given, that is not given. Facilities, when to be given, what to be given, that also should be understood. Okay, so Chandogya Upanishad speaks about all these things. Who will read now? 1 minute. Pushpa Mataji read from Chandogya Upanishad. Unmute. Your voice is not heard.
Not heard?
Now it's
Okay.
heard.
It's coming now?
Yeah.
The Chandogya Upanishad describes the Vedic sacrificial process. On the sacrificial altar, 5 kinds of offerings are made into 5 kinds of fire. The 5 kinds of fire are conceived of as the heavenly planets, clouds, the earth, man and woman, and the 5 kinds of sacrificial offerings are faith, the enjoyer on the moon, rain, grains, and semen. In the process of sacrifice, the living entity makes specific sacrifices to attain specific heavenly planets and consequently reaches them. When the merit of sacrifice is exhausted, the living entity descends to earth in the form of rain, then takes on the form of grains, and the grains are eaten by man and transformed into semen, which impregnates a woman, and thus the living entity once again attains the human form to perform sacrifice and to repeat the same cycle. In this way, the living entity perpetually comes and goes on the material path. The Krishna conscious person, however, avoids such sacrifices. He takes directly to Krishna consciousness and thereby prepares himself to return to Godhead. Impersonalist commentators on the Bhagavad Gita unreasonably assume that Brahman takes the form of Jiva in the material world. And to substantiate this, they refer to chapter 15, verse 7 of the Gita. But in this verse, the Lord also speaks of the living entity as an eternal fragment of myself. The fragment of God, the living entity, may fall down into the material world, but the Supreme Lord, Achyuta, never falls down. Therefore, this assumption that the Supreme Brahman assumes the form of Jiva is not acceptable. It is important to remember that in Vedic literature, Brahman, the living entity, is distinguished from Parabrahman, the Supreme Lord, Hare Krishna.
Okay. Now, 3 questions are done. Now let us see. Next 5 are left. Adibhutam Ksharo Bhava Purushascha Adiyagyo Hamevatra Dehe Deha Vrutambara. Adibhutam. Adhyatma is over, karma is over, Brahman is over. Now Adhibhutam. What is Adhibhutam? Adhibhutam is the temporary material body which he has attained. Adhibhutam is physical nature or temporary material body, you can say, material manifestation, material body. Then Adidevam. Adidevam here refers to the universal body of Krishna. Adidevam, universal form of Krishna, Adidevam. And then Adhiyagyam. The Adhiyagya is super soul, Paramatma, who is seated in the body. That is why it is 7 questions. It's not just 8, 7. The 2 relate to one only. Adhiyagya, how is he situated in the body as Paramatma? I, the Super Lord, Supreme Lord, represented as the super soul in the body at every living entity, am called Adhiyagya. See, 7 questions were asked. Seven questions were asked, and in the end, 7 were spoken. 7 aspects were spoken, isn't it? Krishna speaks about the 7 aspects. And now 7 questions are there. It's not 8, it is 7. Adhiyagya. So Adhibhutam, what is Adhibhutam? That is material body. Then what is there? Adhidaivam, the universal body of Krishna, the universal form of Krishna. Then comes Adhiyagya. So universal form, when you say universal form, everything, everywhere Krishna is residing. In everything Krishna is residing. Then super soul, how Krishna is present as super soul. What is that? Adhiyagya. Adhibhutam, Adhidaivam, Adhiyagya. 3 more questions are there. So that became now 6 total. Okay. Who will read? Shilpa Mataji, read. And yeah.
Hare Krishna. Adibhutam Ksharo Bhava Purushachadi Devitam Adi Yagnoaham Evatra Dehe Deha Vridambara. Meaning, O best of the embodied beings, the physical nature, which is constantly changing, is called Adi Bhuta, the material manifestation.
Adi Bhuta. Which Bhuta is there? Adi Bhuta.
Adi Bhuta.
Adi Bhutam. 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 Adi Bhutam. Adi Bhuta. Okay. Read.
Universal form of the Lord, which includes all the demigods, like those of the sun and moon, is called Adi Deva. And I, the Supreme Lord, represented as the super soul in the heart of every embodied being, am called Adi Yagna, the Lord of sacrifice.
Why I saying Adi? It is only Adi. Adi. Not A. Adi.
Adi Yagna.
This is A.
Adi
Adhiyagya.
Yagna. Purport. The physical nature is constantly changing. Material bodies generally pass through 6 stages. They are born, they grow, they remain for some duration, they produce some byproducts, they dwindle, and then they vanish. This physical nature is called Adibhuta. Adibhuta. It is called at a certain point, it is created at a certain point and will be annihilated at a certain point. The conception of the universal form of the Supreme Lord, which includes all the demigods and their different planets, is called Adhidevata. And present in the body along with the individual soul is the super soul, a plenary representation of Lord Krishna. The super soul is called the Paramatma or Adhiyagna and is situated in the heart. The word Eva is particularly important in the context of this verse because by this word, the Lord stresses that the Paramatma is not different from him. The super soul, the supreme personality of Godhead, seated beside the individual soul, is the witness of the individual soul's activities and is the source of the soul's various types of consciousness. The super soul gives the individual soul an opportunity to act freely and witnesses his activities. The functions of all these different manifestations of the Supreme Lord automatically become clarified for the pure Krishna conscious devotee engaged in transcendental service to the Lord. The gigantic universal form of the Lord, called Adhidevata, is contemplated by the neophyte who cannot approach the Supreme Lord in his manifestation as super soul. The neophyte is advised to contemplate the universal form or Virata Purusha, whose legs are considered the lower planets, whose eyes are considered the sun and moon, and whose head is considered the upper planetary system. Hare Krishna.
So Krishna's universal form. In here, you're going to get the chapter, 11th chapter. Now, last question. How to remember Krishna at the point of death? Antakali chamaveva smaranamukva kalevaram yah prayati samadbhavam yati nastyatra samshayaham. Antakale chamaveva smaranamukva kalevaram yah prayati samadbhavam yati nastyatra samshayaham. So what was the question actually? What was the question? Last question, what was it? Prayana kale pichatmam te viduryuktaha chetasaha. So, how to know Krishna at the time of death? How to know him? That is the question. How can those who engage in devotional service know you at the point of death? How to know him? So Krishna says, whoever quits his body remembering him at once attains his nature. There is no doubt. So one has to remember Krishna at the point of death. What happens if he doesn't remember Krishna at the point of death? Then whatever things he remembers, the type of body he gets. Okay, this is understood. But there is 6 Mahavakya, which has been given by Varadaraj Perumal to Kanchipurna, solving the doubt of Ramanujacharya. Ramanujacharya had some doubts. At that time, he asked Kanchipurna. Kanchipurna is a very great devotee who used to do Ekanta Seva to Varadaraj Perumal. Varadaraj means one who is the king of giving benediction. Krishna is known as Varadaraja. In Kanchipuram, you have Varadaraj Perumal deities. Perumal means the supreme person. So this Kanchipurna, who is a very great devotee, he was not told any questions by Ramanuja, but he said, I have doubt. And Lord will know my doubt because he's present as super soul. You just say Ramanuja has doubt. So in the 6 Mahavakya, one of the Mahavakya is, a devotee need not remember Krishna at the time of death. What is the question? Devotee need not remember Krishna at the time of death. And the fifth, there was a fourth answer. Fourth answer. The fifth answer was, Krishna takes it as a personal responsibility to remember the devotee at the point of his death. That is how Varaha Purana also speaks. Yadi vatadi doshena mad bhakto mam nachasmarit. Aham smarami mad bhaktaha nayami paramam gatim. Because of some vata doshas, yadi vatadi doshena. Vata adi kapha vata pitta, any other doshas. Yadi vatadi doshena mad bhakto mam nachasmarit. My devotee is not able to remember me. My devotee, not any common man, devotee. That means he has spent his life in remembering Krishna. But because of some circumstances, he is not able to remember Krishna at the point of death. Then Krishna says, Aham smarami mat bhaktaha. Varaha Puran speaks about the magnanimous, compassionate nature of Krishna. Says that I remember the devotee at the point of death. Aham smarami mat bhaktaha. Nayami paramam gatim. I take him to my abode. That is a personal responsibility which Krishna has taken for a devotee. Antakale cha mameva smarana muktva kalevaram yah prayati samadbhavam yati nastata samshaya. This is for a common man. If you tell a devotee, remember Krishna at the point of death, he will say, at what point I have not remembered him. Like you ask a mother, are you remembering your child? The mother says, I have not forgotten my child. So where is the question of remembering? I have not forgotten only. When the child is in the womb also, mother is fully conscious of the child. When the child comes out also, mother is fully conscious. When the child grows big also, mother is fully conscious. Maybe the child may not be taking directly food from mother's hand, but mother is always conscious of the child. Mother cannot forget the children. So if you ask the mother, are you remembering your child? It's the most stupid question you're asking. In the same way, if you ask the devotee, are you remembering Krishna? He says, my problem is I'm not able to forget Krishna. The highest level of devotees, that is gopis, say our problem is conditioned souls have some problem, we have some problem. Conditioned souls' problem is they are not able to remember Krishna. But our problem is we are not able to forget Krishna. So in this way, this is for the conditioned soul. Krishna says he has to remember. If he doesn't remember, if he remembers, yes. What will he attain? He'll attain my nature. But then, if he doesn't remember, if he remembers something else, then that type of body he gets. Like many have pets. Nowadays, there is a proverb. If you don't have pets in your house, then your family is incomplete. Such a murkha we have not seen. If you don't have pet in the house, your family is incomplete. Is it not something stupidity? Yes, you have pet in the house, you go on remembering your pet. The pet will remember you, he will become the master, you become the pet. This cycle goes on. Now, Krishna says, you remember me, you will come back to me. That is why Prabhupada clearly says, if you don't remember God, you will end up in remembering dog. God, just opposite. Dog. Okay. Mayur Prabhu, read the verse. This is the last verse for today. Then we'll do 6th verse later.
अंतकाले च मामेव स्मरणमुक्त्वा कलेवरं यः प्रयाति समद्भावं याति नास्त्यत्र संशयः. Meaning, and whoever at the end of his life quits his body remembering me alone at once attains my nature. Of this there is no doubt. Purport. In this verse, the importance of Krishna consciousness is stressed. Anyone who quits his body in Krishna consciousness is at once transferred to the transcendental nature of the Supreme Lord. The Supreme Lord is the purest of the pure. Therefore, anyone who is constantly Krishna conscious is also the purest of the pure. The word smaran, remembering, is important. Remembrance of Krishna is not possible for the impure soul who has not practiced Krishna consciousness in devotional service. Therefore, one should practice Krishna consciousness from the very beginning of life. If one wants to achieve success at the end of his life, the process of remembering Krishna is essential. Therefore, one should constantly, incessantly chant the Maha Mantra Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. Lord Chaitanya has advised that one be tolerant as a tree. Tarur iva saheshnuna. There may be so many impediments for a person who is chanting Hare Krishna. Nonetheless, tolerating all these impediments, one should continue to chant Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare, so that at the end of one's life, one can have the full benefit of Krishna consciousness. Hare Krishna.
Okay, any doubts you can ask me. So here Krishna's answer to all the 7 questions. 331. Okay.
Hare Krishna Mataji. Mataji, how do we understand why Arjuna is asking about karma? Previously it was already explained to him, and similarly for the Brahman, like the soul.
He wants to know about the different types of body which a person attains. Karma is nothing but different types of body which a person attains because of the impressions. So he wants to know what is this karma. Krishna has spoken about karma yoga. But what type of bodies are attained? Not so elaborately has been spoken. If you say karma yoga, you have not been, Krishna has not still spoken about the impressions which a person carries, how different bodies they get. I don't think it is there. In 7th chapter also, it's not explicitly spoken. But now, yes, impressions, what is carried, Adidaivam, what are the impressions? Adhyatma, what are the impressions which is carried? The real nature, how it is forgotten, and how a person is entangled because of different circumstances which the body undergoes. That is why karma, more specifically what is karma has been spoken. It's not just activity, it's the impression which makes you do an activity. Why a dog is barking? Why a dog comes and licks you? Because it's more sexual. You know, when dog comes near, dog is the most sexual animal. It tries to pacify its sexual impetus. That is why it is said, don't keep dogs at home. Shastra speaks about it. When a person has the highest degree of sexual impetus, he has to get dog body. The dog comes and actually pacifies the sexual impetus. So why it came? Why this body was got? Because of the karmas, because of the impressions. That is why one has to purify one's consciousness. Very, very important. Or routine, some or the other body person gets. Now
Okay.
deep understanding will be there. The next verse, any of Krishna is going to speak. Whatever thought comes, that thought, the type of body he gets.
Okay, madam.
Okay, any other doubt? No doubt.
Mataji,
Yeah.
Mataji, when we are with non-devotees, at that time, if
Who is a
whatever talk
non-devotee?
is going,
Huh?
no, Mataji, when we are going with friends and if we are going out, so they are non-devotees. And if we talk about, Lord Krishna, then they think that yeah, we are not believing in God. At that time,
Why
we
you should
stop, we
talk
are
to
not,
why you should talk about Krishna to them? Just be peaceful, huh?
yeah. But at that time, how we should remember Krishna, Mataji? So,
Better keep quiet and chant, no?
okay.
When how much required, that much only you should speak. See, everybody is a
Okay.
devotee of Krishna, somebody is forgotten, somebody is remembering. What happens is
Okay.
when we remember, now we want everybody to remember. So that is a great compassion which a devotee has. But one of the nama aparadha is Ashatadhani Vimukhe Pashunavati Echopadeshi Shivanama aparadha. Don't give these instructions at least 1-to-1 to a person who doesn't have faith. You may try out once. Like when you're chanting, he is seeing. If he is asking, what are you doing? You can say, I'm chanting. You can ask if you want, I can. If he is immediately body language, you can understand. He doesn't want to. Then just be peaceful. You're going to workplace for what? For preaching or for working? Just go and work and come out. Because you can only preach to those who are surrendered. You cannot preach to those who are not surrendered. Even Krishna did not preach to Arjuna. Till Arjuna said, Shishyasteham shadi mam tvam prapannam. Till that time, Krishna did not, in a friendly mood, Krishna was scolding, chastising, you can say. But the knowledge is given only to those who are surrendered, who are eager, receptive, who just wants to close their ears, don't give knowledge. That is actually insult to the knowledge also, and you are making him do more aparadhas. So his karma is becoming more bad. So better is, it happens actually when one takes up devotions. Even I used to do this. I was very eager to give to others. Then I saw that my own families were not accepting. So then I thought better just keep quiet. My mother was very dangerous. She was not she was not accepting. But now she's accepting, she's chanting. Then once I heard the class of that Chaitanya Mahaprabhu says, you walk, people will protest. The near ones only will protest. Then afterwards, they will follow. It happened. The most near ones only will start protesting. Then afterwards, they'll follow because they cannot go without you. Okay. Anyone else? Okay, we'll stop here. Vanchakalpatarubhyasya Sindhubhyam cha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavibhyo Namo Namaः. Krishna Vrinda ki jai, Srila Prabhupada ki jai. This Saturday we have Radhashtami festival in Jagannath Devasthan. All the side close by can come. There will be boat festival. Every year we have boat festival. We have Radha going, being carried in the boat, and the devotees, initiated devotees, will get inside the pond and they pull Krishna. Radha Krishna. Hare Krishna.